Hello and welcome. As you might have saw on the wee title there, I had a wee watch of some Gundam last night. So I have some thoughts on it, and I thought I'd share them with you in video form. Not just kind of a spur of the moment kind of thing, but more because we had a wee Patreon request. I put up a poll on the Patreon, and the subjects you could choose what the subject of today's video would be about, really. And I believe it was anime, Doctor Who, um, beans, and a fourth thing, comics. That was the thing. So yeah, there was a tie because we have two Patreons, and we have three Patreons now, but the third one didn't vote. So it was a tie between Doctor Who and anime. So I thought I'd do this one now. I thought I'd do anime first because we've had quite a lot of Doctor Who, and then we'll do a Doctor Who one as well because we're fair round here. Yeah, I I'm just cleaning the screen. I like mecha. I'm a big fan of giant robots. You might have worked that out because quite a lot of the content, the old content, is dedicated to robots and robots of various kinds. I I was first exposed to it, as many of us were in the West, by Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing back in the day was a hell of a revelation. I can't really remember the kind of the chronology of it, but I specifically remember sitting down to watch Gundam Wing and just being blown away by the visuals and at the time the plot. It's hard to go back to his old Gundam Wing nowadays. It's hard to recommend people watch Gundam Wing because it was very much of its time. It's an incredibly 90s anime. It's got a lot of stuff going on that isn't necessarily what people want nowadays, I guess. But it's definitely worth the wee peek. And I will always specifically remember the opening episodes where the Gundams, because there was five of them, it was a Sentai team of Gundams piloted by pretty boys, pretty terrorists that dropped down from space and then destroyed military installations on the Earth, and that will always stick with me because it felt like 5 to 10 episodes of just peaceful military base, and then like a Gundam just like descends. It's like, and then like everyone's like, huh, and then like it's a Gundam, and then just death everywhere, and then like it felt like 5 to 10 episodes variation on that, basically a variation on the theme of Gundams kill everyone. And I as a youth, that was incredible. I hadn't seen a cartoon like that necessarily. It very much was a kind of more grown-up cartoon for Cartoon Network back in the day, because its cartoon characters were just because that was when kind of vaguely knew what anime was, but didn't have a kind of solid grasp on it yet. Because I believe Pokemon had happened by that point, and I had vague concepts of like, what's it, G-Force, Battle of the Planets, that kind of stuff being kind of like an older anime. So there was a vague concept in my mind that it was kind of a thing. It was like a thing off in the distance anime, but it wasn't quite crystallized yet. And it's kind of a revelation because you're sitting there watching your Dexter's Laboratory, which is banging, and then Gundam comes on. I can't remember. I want to say Gundam came before Dragon Ball in the UK. If I'm wrong, correct me. But I want to say it came before because I distinctly remember. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was well after. That whole kind of vague time space in the late 90s, early 2000s is quite vague in my mind. One thing came before the other, but Dragon Ball was a revelation as well. But Gundam and its giant robots and its like stylish, incredibly, to my eyes, well animated robots, and they were like, it was exactly what I loved because obviously I'd been prepped for that by Power Rangers with its mecha, but it was like the Zord fights in Power Rangers, but just like all episode and kind of set to like for kids quite a realistic kind of backdrop and kind of an ongoing plot for 50 episodes. It was definitely new to wee baby Craig. It was cool. It was pretty cool. Like I say, going back to it now, it's a bit kind of naff in places, and every Christmas though, every Christmas I say to myself, maybe watch some Gundam Wing, because like Gundam's like finale OVA film thing is set at Christmas, and I believe the last episodes of the series are set at Christmas. So Christmas and Gundam are like intrinsically linked for me. I remember taping Endless Waltz, the OVA thing, at Christmas. It must have been at Christmas. 'Cause I feel like there was a wee gap of the season ending, and then they were coming back. And I remember Toonami advertising the Endless Waltz film, and it was just like just the kind of like, what? There's more. There's like a whole thing, and like the designs change. Because like the Gundams, they kind of look like this. They look like a Gundam. This is like a very generic one. This is like a mass-produced one from the original series. The Gundam Wing ones are more 90s, I guess you would say, more gimmicky. And then their OVA ones just like lean into that super hard, and they're very kind of like evil, clownish. Like I know kind of the circus is like a theme for one of the pilots, but all of them seem very clowny, and like they specifically give the angel one, the Gundam Wing, who's had little wings, and then it gets upgraded to Gundam Zero or whatever. But they specifically like lean into it super hard, and that because the 90s loved angels for some reason. And like I know Japan and mechs and angels are intrinsically linked forever now, but they give Wing Zero like big angel wings, and it's this weird sense of like, what are you talking about? They've always looked like that. And it's like, no, they haven't. I like those designs. I want to put on record that I like the designs from Endless Waltz. They're very different, and it's odd. It's an odd choice that they made there, but I think they're pretty banging. So yeah, like I have since a young age, since Gundam came to the West, since Gundam came to the British shores, I've always had a wee soft spot for it. But I've never taken that forward because I never really had access to it necessarily post Gundam Wing. I don't remember the UK. This is another thing to correct me on. I don't remember the UK necessarily showing anything else other than Wing. I know America got all of the shows. They got like Seed, and they got like dubs of the OG 70s show and stuff. But I just don't remember. Maybe I was watching different channels or something at the time, but I don't remember it hitting the UK necessarily. But again, correct me if I'm wrong on that, because that's something I would like to know. I know I could just look it up, but conversation is what the world's all about. But I never took it forward. I remember getting, I don't know where I learned about Gundam Seed. It might have been in like a magazine that I found in a charity shop, because like I got these big these like Japanese catalogue-y things. It had loads of toys, and I was like, oh, robots and toys, and it had stuff from like Gundam Seed, and I was like, what's Gundam Seed? Like I know Gundam Wing is a different thing, and probably TV tropes, to be fair. Back in the day, hitting up TV, like the discovery of TV tropes is a video in itself, but TV tropes definitely helped me find, because you can just go hit up Gundam, and it's like, here's all the other Gundams, here's the franchise, pages and pages of that. So my knowledge about Gundam exploded there, really. But really, my love of it and the things I know that I cherish from it are limited to Wing. That said, I would kind of like to get more into Gundam, and that's why last night I was just watching a wee bit of Zeta Gundam. And my understanding of Zeta Gundam is that it is the sequel to Gundam. And I want to watch like the original Gundam, but like it's very 70s, and it's very like, I want to say harder to get through. I'll have to make a day of it and just sit, because I sat watching Zeta Gundam, and I did that thing for the very first time, because you know how the youth watch anime at like ×2 speed or times whatever speed, like they hit up the wee button to make it go faster. I was doing that, and I think it'll take a wee while to get used to it, but I was so chuffed when I just watched an entire episode of Zeta Gundam, and like 10 minutes had passed, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's kind of the future. Like I know I like always become everything that I hate. Like I always always be like, oh, these millennials watching anime at ×2 speed, they're not savoring it. They're not ingesting the fabulous animation or the character work or the vibe. But I was just sitting there being like, because I watched the first episode at like normal speed, and I was like, that was good, and it was kind of everything that I was necessarily wanting. But if I could watch that in half the time, that would be pretty chuffed. And then I watched 2 episodes at 2 times speed or whatever. There was a speed that was too fast, and the speed that I eventually ended up watching them at might have also been too fast. But that time save, you can't put a price on time saved. So like the ability to watch old anime at that speed, because like there's so many episodes, there's like 50 episodes or whatever. 40 to 50 episodes, that condensed down really saves a lot of time and makes it a lot more bearable is the wrong word, because bearable makes it sound like it's not a fun experience, but it was. I quite liked what I saw of Zeta Gundam. Going into it, I put it on because I knew that it was the mid 80s one, and I was there for 80s hair and like 80s looks, and I wasn't disappointed because the mech design was cracking. It wasn't necessarily kind of the iconic 70s Gundam stuff that you would get in the first series, but it was very much like mid 80s, like Japan robots, like that kind of proper vibe. And I know that it goes like it's one of the ones famous for going. Like I know Gundam's famous for going dark places. Gundam being like the first real robot show, or the one that kind of kick-started the real robot thing in Japan. So it's famous for being more realistic. Oh, I think the first series is very much just like Star Trek, but with mechs, which sounds reductive, but Star Trek with mechs, you know? Star Wars with mechs. It's very much like Federation-y, though. Like they're very much kind of in the Star Trek vein instead of the space cowboy vein like Star Wars. But yeah, the protagonist, Zeta Gundam, is called Camille, and he, like, I've heard tell that he's terrible, but I thought, I'll give him a chance. I'll wire in there. I'll see how he goes. 3 episodes, or at least I think I only might have watched 2. I can't remember how many episodes I watched now. But like, at least, like a small amount of episodes in, he does seem quite terrible. Like there's these guys called Titans who, as far as I can make out, are like Earthers, but they're like out in space to police the colonies, and they seem terrible. Like they seem like space Nazis. Zeta seems to be like, because like the first series just has space Nazis, and it's like humans versus the space Nazis, or like humans versus humans, but the baddies are the space Nazis. But like, and like I know Gundam is famous for being like, oh, all sides have heroes and villains, but like Zeon very much seems like the space Nazis. But Zeta seems to be going for they're all Nazis, and the main character kind of like rocks up to some of them, and he's like, "Ooh, the Titans," and one of them, because somebody's like love interest, or the generic first episode anime girls like calling his name, he's like Camille, and then like the space jock Nazi man's like, Camille, that sounds like a girl's name. And then like Camille just has like this like Eva Berserk moment where like the animation's amazing, like it all turns like pink and red, and he's like freaking out in his brain, and he just like leaps over like a turnstile in 0G to just like punch the guy in the gut. And I must stress that this guy is like a Nazi jock man, like 8 foot tall, like Federation looking dude. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But Camille keeps doing that in the first couple of episodes. He keeps like freaking out that people think that his name's a girl's name. Like he does like the kind of Arthur meme, like fist clench. Like it gets to him so much. And like I hope that's like a character arc that they do, that he gets over it. But from everything I've kind of vaguely seen around the peripheries of Gundam, I feel like I think that's what he's known for. So I don't know if I'll be able to cope with that going forward. I don't know how much of it I'll watch. Like, I scratched the itch of like proper mech show, because that's kind of what this video's the grander scheme of it's about. Because mecha anime, I want to be dramatic and say mecha anime is dead. It's not, because like every time I say that, I go looking for mech shows, and there seems to be like loads of mech shows about. It's just that like, in my day, I would have said that like mechs were emblematic of anime. Like anime and mechs are like 1-to-1. Like mechs are the big thing. They're not what all anime is, but it's kind of what I would want and expect from an anime is mechs. And even if it wasn't like a mecha show, it would have mechs in it, or it'd be mech related or something. I'll be switching between mechs and mecha in this random stream of consciousness. But as I have grown older, and as anime has grown older, it's very much gotten away from that. Uh, it's probably a victim of its own success, and I want to blame Big Anno, kind of Big Anno of Evangelion fame, because like he delivered upon to us the greatest like mech show, and I'll plant my flag and say that Eva's the greatest mech show. I know that's quite a like kind of, you think Eva's the best. It's like saying Watchmen's the best comic. I would disagree on the Watchmen front, but very much agree on the Eva front. I never used to like Eva as well. I remember when I was into Eva, and then I got super into it, as you do. Eva's like a giant dwarf, like a black hole of gravity that just pulls you in. Like you can circle around it for so long, but Eva will find you and drag you into its great depths. Is that a metaphor? But yeah, the running out of steam. Yeah, today anime is very much about your well, it was about your moe girls. Like there was probably like it was a transitionary period where like it was like sci-fi mechy kind of future stuff, but then it became, there was like lots of like really good slice of life shows, and they kind of took over. And I'm so far out of the game that I can't really say that's what anime is today. But like from my casual observations, anime seems to be kind of everything. Like I'd like to know if you could like, because in my day there was only so many animes, and now there's just a billion at all times everywhere, and that's great. But I feel like it's not proportional. Like, there's not enough mech shows to the amount of anime, so it kind of feels like mecha have died, or mecha are dying, or mecha needs saved. Hashtag save mecha. Save mechs. Hashtag save giant robots. Are hashtags a thing that the youth use anymore? I don't think they ever were, to be honest. I feel like they're a thing that like corporations thought they used, but you know, I'll be that guy. I'll be a cringy dad. But so I feel like maybe mecha aren't dead. It's just that there's so much anime that you'd want to think that there was more mech stuff within the bubble, but it feels like there isn't. I know there's a lot of, I think where this goes to is that mech shows are costly to produce, and they don't have as much of an audience anymore because people moved on to moe and stuff. The mo girls, them moe. Is moe what's wrong, or is mo what's wrong? I get to the point in my life where I say something so wrong so much that I can't remember what the right and the wrong is anymore. I know that's highly like concerning behavior, but that's where I am. The moe girls, the mo girls. Oh god, which one's wrong? I know that's the kind of the focus, and that's kind of what the casual audience think of as anime now, and that's probably for the worse, because like giant robots, man, giant robots are kicking. They chicks dig giant robots famously, and I want there to be more mech shows, and like I say, I've gone out and searched for them, and there does seem to be a certain abundance of them in places, but most mech shows that you see about these days tend to be CGI animes, or they're animes with CGI mechs in them, and I don't necessarily think I've seen that done well yet. There might be one exception, and I would say that is Studio Trigger's Gridman. Big Griddy was a hell of a time. I've still to finish it, to be fair. Like, I'm 2 episodes from the end. I know they tend to stumble the landing, but I've not heard too bad things about it. Because that was the thing last year. Last year, Studio Trigger, which are the sons of Gainax, I don't know what the direct lineage is, but they're definitely like Gainax's lads. And they've had kind of mixed success. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest. I've not even seen Kill the Kill. I've seen bits of it, but it seemed too much like filth to me. Did Kill the Kill, and I know that's what it was going for. But like, I'm not here for the filth. Like, I'm here for vague filth, but I'm not here for like active filth. And I was a big fan of their Space Patrol Lulico, or whatever it was called. That might be the only time I pronounce it right, even if I didn't pronounce it right. I was a big fan of that. If you've not seen that anime, actually, I would recommend Space Patrol Lulico. Just type Space Patrol into Crunchyroll because it's up there. It's wee like 2 to 5 minute episodes, and they form like multiple seasons and series. There was great work because like a series will go by in like 3 episodes of like 2 minute shorts. It's fantastic. it's a wee kind of gag series thing, beautifully animated, and it does that thing where its endings have like real backgrounds with like cut out anime folk upon them. You get loads of points from me if you do anything approaching that, and Trigger seems to be well into it, so it's another reason that I love the Trig. But yes, last year, I think it was last year. Was it last year? Was it the year before? I want to say it was last year. Last year, the vague sense that Mecha was dead was still kind of prevailing, and Trigger looked like they could save Mecha because they had a mech show on the horizon. They had Darling in the Franxx, and I know Darling in the Franxx has become somewhat of a joke within the anime fandom or anime fandoms, and it probably deserves it. Again, I never finished Darling in the Franxx because it was so not what I wanted. It had mechs and it had 2D mechs at that, or at least the appearance of 2D mechs. I don't know if they used CGI to achieve it, but it looked like a mech show. The problem was they came at the problem of anime being like best girl, moe girls, whatever. They saw what it had become, and they saw what they were into, and they're like, how do we make this profitable? How do we save mecha? And their answer was, we make the mechs anime girls. I know that's not what the talking points of Darling in the Franxx are, but that's what I saw looking into it, because they made the mechs themselves various anime girls. They had the main one, they had breasts. Like, you can't really get away from that. That was their solution, and it's a credible solution. I think it's definitely an attack. It's definitely a vector to go down. I think the designs themselves were the problem, really, because the main one looked pretty cool, and it got a super form that looked pretty cool as well. I kind of like that, but I think they were too dumb. It was like bringing the two audiences together and not necessarily. They were trying to bridge the gap, but failing to do it. They had the anime girls, they had the mechs, and they mushed them together. And I don't think it was what people wanted. It wasn't what I wanted. So, like, it could have worked again. I think if the specific designs were different and better, but they kind of seemed quite clumsy. In their kind of adding girls to mechs, because you can do that already, because you kind of want the contrast, I guess, is what you want. You want the kind of big industrial beef machines, and you just have them piloted by girls, which is not to say that's what Darling didn't do, because it had its like full cast of, because like it had its full cast of like its anime team, and some of them were like, one of them had like blue hair, and one of them had like Asuka hair, and like she just looked like Asuka from Eva. So you've already got that. So I don't know if, like I say, I think it was a credible attack on the problem, but not necessarily a winner, really. I think it drove more people away than it brought in. I was having conversations with people where they just couldn't get past the fact that the mechs were lassies, and I kind of fall at that hurdle as well. I get more past it, but then it keeps happening, and you're like, this isn't what I want, really. This isn't what I kind of want in mechs. But yeah, they also had butt control, which is the other talking point. The anime mechs were piloted by two. It was like drifting in Pacific Rim, where it was like two people to a mech, and it was a boy-girl situation, and the girls formed the control node of the thing for some reason. I don't know if it all gets explained or whatever, because like I say, never finished it, because the problems with Darling in the Franxx weren't necessarily kind of the filth, because I mean, it was dumb that they piloted it doggy style, and like it was very like shock value, and it's very like trigger filth. But you know, that wasn't necessarily the problem. The problem was it was deeply dull for most of its run. And I know it's probably like cost saving, because it was trying to be Eva, or trying to be like a kind of modern day Eva, but it didn't have necessarily the. I guess people say it tried to be Eva. I don't think it was trying to be necessarily Eva, but it was very Eva influenced, and it was trying to like have lots of kind of mech action, but with great character work. And I think it fell down quite hard on its character work, because there was like an episode that was incredible where one of the main lassie's backstory came up, and I thought that was really good, and it was like the best episode of the show that I'd watched thus far. But it was like 18 episodes in or something, like 12. It was a ridiculous amount into the series, And most my abiding memories of Darling in the Franxx will be just those teens sitting in that room, arguing slash talking, and me screaming at the screen, "Pilot the giant robots for the love of God!" See, I know you hold this against me, but like when it wasn't even masterful use of it, because you can do that. You can be Eva and like not have Shinji in the robot and be doing stuff, and I'll be along for the ride. But see when it's like boring and like dull and agonizing, like Darling in the Franxx was. Genuine shame, genuine active shame. So their big kind of save mecha show, and I know that's like my expectations that I'm foisting upon it, because there's that meme of like Triggers once again saves anime. Like they didn't save mecha with that show, but that said, because that was their kind of real robot attempt. That was their kind of like they are super robots in Darling and the Franxx, but they're very much going for the real robot tone. If you've not watched Gridman and you're a mech fan, absolutely go watch Gridman. SSS Gridman is fan bloody tastic. It's potentially the mecha savior that we didn't know that we needed, but we got. Because you go into it and it's like Ultraman. I know it's based on the Gridman tokusatsu, but it's very much just like I assume that's just very much Ultraman as well. You've got your henshin hero kind of thing that he just looks like Ultraman and he gets bigger and he fights him like kaiju, and it's kaiju battles. And you'd think that would kind of exclude it from the kind of mech vibe, but Gridman's very much just a mech. Like the main character goes inside of him. The main character like possesses Gridman's body, and it's not made clear really who's doing the fighting because it's not necessarily like a one-to-one kind of piloting thing, but it's very much your wee anime boys inside the guy, the big hulking thing. And yes, he's fleshy, but so are Eva's. So. And then later in the series, they get more add-on bits and like Megazord limbs and more bits to kind of combine together to make a proper mech-looking thing. And it's incredibly mech. Like it's incredibly, surprisingly, what you'd want from a super robot show. It does lots of finishers. It does lots of unique kind of combination animations. It's really good, and it's presented like a kind of monster of the week tokusatsu thing. So there's lots of fun kaiju for him to fight, and it might be the mecha savior, which I'm always looking for. I'm always out in the waves with my wee binoculars, peering out into the distance to find that mecha savior, and I feel like Gridman doesn't get enough credit there because it doesn't look like it would be mecha, because it's like specifically going for the Ultraman vibe. But like I say, if you've not seen Gridman, if you're not like a mech fan or whatever, and you've not seen Gridman, I would say go watch it, because there's a lot of fun stuff that goes on in Gridman. The art style's great. If you're a Transformers fan, watch Gridman, because weirdly, all of the main characters are personifications of shattered glass characters, because that character designer is off his face, and we should give him all of our money, because he's just like, I'm making these anime girls, but it's like Shattered Glass Optimus Prime or Shattered Glass Megatron. It's like, okay, I hope you don't get sued, to be honest. Didn't let Toei, or not Toei, what is it? Don't let Takara, and don't let Hasbro know, but good work, lads. Yeah. I know there's this new show by the Rooster Teeth people, the Ruby folk, have a show out called Gen X or Gen Lock or Gen something. Definitely that's something that's on my radar that I want to check out, because I've seen a lot of vids and clips and stuff on the Twitter, and it does look hella mech. Also, I'm going to give a shout out here to... Oh no, before I move on, Gridman himself, the Ultraman stand-in, is done in CGI, and it might be the best CGI I've seen done in anime. There's probably better examples of actual CGI, but in terms of like modern day CGI elements in an anime, probably the best, because it invokes the rubber suit effect of tokusatsu, because you've got your real 2D or whatever, or probably computer done, but like your 2D looking anime world, and then you plonk your CGI Gridman, so it looks like he's a rubber suit monster. So if I would recommend that to anime people. Like there's a great contrast work that can be done. with CGI mech shows, and I know there's a few of them on Netflix, and I should probably give them more of my time than I have, but I just can't get past CGI mechs. They don't look as epic. They don't look as there's something about 2D ones, and specifically kind of 90s 2D ones with a kind of heavy line style that just activates my brain and makes me say, yes, this is a mech. There's something wrong. Like, even though it makes more sense because it's more real and more kind of this is a working machine, or like at least the impression of a working machine. You can see all the bits and bobs, and we've done the mechanics in the computer to make it seem more real than like a 2D one could. It doesn't feel right to me, really. Like, I've tried to watch a few things on Netflix. I can't really remember the names, but it just looks stiff and wrong. But Gridman doesn't. Gridman like takes advantage of it looking wrong to make it look right. And yeah, Gridman's a time, man. Other than that, the state of mecha's a wee bit kind of naff at the moment. I don't. If you know any mech shows, basically, let me know in the comments. If you know any upcoming mech shows or recent ones that I wouldn't have seen, because really I've only seen Darling and Franks recently, and well, there was that Tiramisu one. There was like a space battleship Tiramisu thing on Crunchyroll. That it was like a gag thing, and it had like a mech pilot in it. I should really get back to that because I don't know if it's good, but it looked fun. So if you know any mech shows coming up that might save mecha, chuck them in the comments or down in the comments, because I would love a good new mech show. Until then, I might start plugging away at Gundam. I had a great time building your wee GM boy here. I want to say he's a GM. I don't know where his box is. I can't check. I love a generic Gundam. I really need to get into Zaku's, like the enemy mechs from the first thing, like the space Nazis. They're so curvy and cool, and like they all have disco flares because it was the disco era. Oh, his feet are so great. I wish you could see him plonking. Like, see these feet? They're so flat, and just plonk him down. He's fine. You know, when you plonk a transformer down and it might not sit. This guy gets it. I've also got Barbatos, because this is the other thing. There was that new Gundam series, Iron-Blooded Orphans, which is an incredible name for a thing, Iron-Blooded Orphans. And I watched at least a good few episodes into that, but it didn't hook me. I never got reeled in with its fleshy tendrils. So I never kind of... So, like, the new Gundam thing didn't feel great, so it didn't feel like Gundam was doing well. And I know Gundam's got loads of OVAs, and I know... I watched a bit of the Unicorn stuff, actually. I know I've been bad-mouthing CGI mechs and cartoons and stuff in anime, but the Gundam Unicorn itself was CGI, and that didn't look too bad in my memory. I got a good few episodes into that because Crunchyroll had split, because I know it was OVAs or films or whatever, and they split it up into episodes. And I watched a wee bit of that. That seemed all right. The 80s hair was on point. See, anime's 80s hair rendered in like HD stuff, computer animation, fantastic. That was enough to carry the show for me for however long I watched it. I know it's up on the Netflix now, so I might go back. And watch it. So I've got a wee basket of mecha, and I've got lots of hope in my heart that because I know we're probably past the point of like mecha returning to its glory days, but there should be at least bits. There should be more than like what there is. And the West has had some good attempts this decade, because remember, it was this decade, 2013, we had Pacific Rim, which might be the best mech thing. The film itself is incredible, and I'll never badmouth it, but there's only so much of it, and like the mech fights in it are so like, yes, this is exactly like Del Toro nails the feel of giant robots being awesome. There's that whole monologue at the start about, you know, walking out into the storm and you can fight the storm because you're in a mech. Like, that kind of just, that nails it. And then there was that scene where he popped the sword, and like, I know that scene, like where the mech in Pacific Rim pops its sword, is probably up there with like #1 plot holes in films. It's like, why didn't it pop its sword earlier and save all these lives and save all this damage to the city? It popped its sword at that moment because it was a bloody anime and it was the finisher, and of course he popped it then. Like I just screamed in the cinema. It was such like a pander, like it was the best fan service. The absolute best level of fan service was that like sword pop and the slice, and I'm going to give a shout out to Pacific Rim 2, which you'll probably be led to believe is quite a bad film, but it's a great film. It's a genuinely fantastic film, is Pacific Rim 2. It's not a good film. Let no one tell you that it's a well-made, good film. It's not. It's kind of trash, but it's like incredible trash. Like, it's a wee bit of a shame that it's kind of spoiled Pacific Rim or whatever, or like taking Pacific Rim down a peg because it's like attached to it, and it kind of does some things with the characters that aren't great. But it's pretty good, like all the way through. There's just so much goings on with mechs and kind of the mech lifestyle, because it's weird. It's like a peacetime film, is Pacific Rim 2, because you've got your end of the world apocalyptic stuff in one, and then in two they're kind of fine, and there's some shenanigans going on, and maybe the world will end again. But it very much feels like a peacetime thing, and they do stuff with like mech cadets and. That's another thing. Greg Pak, I think it's Greg Pak. Greg Pak has a comic called like Mech Cadet something, Mech Cadet U, something like that. I should get into that. I wonder if there's trades out. I see him on Twitter all the time posting about it, and I'm like, I should probably read that, but my comic shop doesn't have it. And I suppose I could order it in, but it's in so many episodes in now, so many issues. I may as well just get a trade. I'll go bother him in a second, see if there is a trade. I bet there's a trade. There's a trade of everything. But I'm a wee bit confident, wee bit hopeful. Like, I hope this new year coming up has more mech stuff in it. That's all I really have to say. Thanks for watching. This was a Patreon supported video because we did a wee poll on the Patreon about what you want to see. I'm going to make a Doctor Who one now. Finger guns. Like, comment, and subscribe. There should be a wee subscribe button here if you like what we do. That's what I'll have to say. Oh, I want to have a pure time. I believe that was the lyrics. The lyrics in Zeta Gundam say, the lady singing it is like, I want to have a pure time. Oh, they didn't make openings like that anymore, did they? They absolutely didn't. Anyway, love you, bye.